when you know you're in your sweet spot, you know that this is what God made you to do. It sounds crazy, but I find great delight in putting on a costume and just dancing around and messing with people.
Hey, Austin, how are you?
Good, Dad. How are you doing today?
Good. Today's exciting. I mean, we already had your kids all fired up with our guest. They couldn't wait to meet him. And I think this is our first one of the kind that we're having here. So let's get ready to go. And today our journey is going to take us across 38 states, 12 countries, and over 10,000 personal appearances, while bringing joy to countless individuals around this country and world. From an overlooked high school athlete to an iconic NFL mascot and globally recognized motivational speaker, he stands as a compelling testament to a life lived with profound purpose and unwavering faith. 35 years as the KC Wolf, his signature 85-inch hips and size 23 shoes, along with his relentless personality, made him the first NFL mascot inducted into Mascot Hall of Fame, and the only mascot to be inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. But this is a story about resilience, purpose, and faith. His ability to transform personal tragedy into powerful lessons of resilience, gratitude, and steadfast belief. My name is Ken Karcher, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is my son, Austin Karcher. And today we'd like to welcome Dan Meers, the KC Wolf, as our guest to awaken kingdom culture, where hearts and minds come alive one story at a time. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. I take it this is your first mascot on this podcast.
Yes, we saved the best for first, Dan, the best.
I encourage you to get the Chick-fil-A cow. That guy's pretty good too.
Well, we may have to get you to give us a recommendation. We'd love to do it. So
yeah, I love working with him because every now and then he gives me a coupon for a free chicken sandwich.
Well, Dan, let's jump back to when you were just a little guy growing up in the Meers home, where that might be. Tell us about your home life and your childhood memories.
Yeah, so I grew up in St. Charles, Missouri, which is about 30 miles west of St. Louis, and grew up in a family with all boys. I'm the who had three boys, and I was right in the middle, and the best looking of the three, too. I hope my brothers are listening on to this. But I had parents that is just a wonderful childhood. Kind of grew up on a farm. And even though my dad was an electrician, he and all his brothers were kind of part-time farmers. And so just had a great childhood growing up, always loved sports, played sports in high school. And when I say played sports, I actually sat on a bench in baseball, basketball, and football. So I was a three-sport bench warmer, so I had a lot of opportunity to watch mascots, I guess. And that's how I know God's got a sense of humor. He took a guy that sat on a bench in baseball, basketball, and football in high school, and then turned around and gave me a 35-year NFL career. So,
Amen.
That's great. Dan, when you look back at your home life, how did growing up in the Meers home start with your early influences, who you became as a man today?
I look back on my parents and, they say opposites attract. That could not be more true in my parents' marriage. My dad was a very quiet man. And part of that was because he was married to my mother, who would not only finish his sentences, she would start his next one, finish that one, start another, finish that one, and so on. But no, but I just love my parents. My dad, who he recently passed about a month ago now, but he was my role model. Love the guy. He was a sermon in shoes. I mean, he never told me how to live life. He lived his life and he let me watch. And
Wow.
Just thankful for him and just the impact that he had on my life. And my mom is the same way. She lives out her faith. And if there's one thing with my mom that you never have to question is whether she loves you or not. So it is, I have never had to question that. My brothers have never had to question that. but we knew we were loved. And when you grow up in a family where you know you're loved, you know your parents love each other, it gives you security. And when you got security, you're able to go out and attempt things and be courageous in life.
Amen. So
Uh,
you talked about how your dad was a sermon in shoes. Tell us a little bit, maybe how he lived his life that spoke to you so much.
You know, he was a guy that he modeled for me what commitment looked like, uh, because there was no doubt in my mind he was committed to the Lord. He was committed, I watched him usher in church. My dad is not one of those guys that's going to get up and stand up in front of church and
Yeah.
talk. But my dad would volunteer to be an usher at church week after week after week after week. You could count on him. You knew he was going to be there. And so, but he modeled commitment to my mom, to us kids, to his grandkids, to his great grandkids. The other thing he modeled for us was contentment. The good book says godliness with contentment is great gain. My dad, when he passed, still had a flip phone. That man did not need an iPhone. That was the last thing he needed. He had a flip phone. He probably had 50 minutes per month, and I carried 40 of those minutes over each month. But yeah, and then just his commitment to Christ and just modeling what that looked like each and every day. And so just thankful for the dad that I was blessed with, and know I get to see him again someday.
Amen. What was one of your early influences that brought you into the sports world?
Growing up in a family with all boys, none of us could sing, none of us could play instruments, musical instruments, and none of us had a modeling career coming up anytime in the near future. So everything we did revolved around sports. I mean, we would get out and play whatever sport it was. I mean, if it was baseball season, we were all in on baseball. If it was football season, we were all in on football. And, same with basketball. And as you can see, I'm not exactly built like a football player. And so my two main sports were basketball and baseball, just because I would have got pushed around on the football field, and I did. I was a split end. I was a wide receiver, but I was a slow wide receiver. Those two things don't go together very well either. So, but I've always loved sports. My brothers have always loved sports. And I've had some great coaches and just mentors in my life that helped me improve not only as an athlete, but more importantly, just as a man and who I became.
So jumping ahead to high school, tell us about your high school experience, whether in sports or outside of sports. And then, tell us maybe one of your most impactful moments you had in your high school time.
Well, I tell you a quick funny story. So I told you I was a bench warmer. Okay.
Yeah.
So it came to our senior year of high school, and me and a buddy of mine, a guy named Tom Booker, I'd been sitting the bench with that guy for 4 years straight. And we're like, if we ain't gonna play, we're gonna have fun. So the senior night, we got with a buddy of ours that worked at the local pizza place, and we ordered a pizza and had him deliver it to the end of the bench during needless to say, Coach wasn't real happy about that, and we ran some extra runs and sat next day at practice. But no, we still talk about that years later. I think our coach actually thinks it's kind of funny now. It's a few years later, but yeah, we definitely got some extra conditioning in the next day. But once again, I had a basketball coach, guy named Terry Hollander, who just he taught me so much, just a great influence on my life, and taught me discipline and taught me to win. You win with pride and you lose with pride. You want to be a class act, no matter whether you're winning or losing, and just do it the right way.
So you finish up your high school career, and you end up choosing, I think, the University of Missouri. Tell us a little bit about why you chose there and your college experience. And then I guess you read a newspaper ad that changes your life. Tell us about all that.
So, yeah, I went to the University of Missouri. Like I said, I grew up about an hour and a half from there, and I knew I was going to go to college. And my best buddy that I went to high school with, he was also going to Mizzou, and you know, wasn't real sure what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, but I knew I should at least go to college and maybe find out what I was going to do along the way. And so went to Mizzou, and yeah, I think I started out in the agriculture school. My dad was a farmer, so why not start off in agriculture? Quickly learned that's not what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And so I switched over to broadcast journalism. So I was a broadcast major, and I was also a communications major. So, but my freshman year, towards the end of the freshman year, like I said, I was sitting reading the school newspaper, and there was this little article that said they were going to have tryouts to be Truman the Tiger. And I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting. I'd always been a little bit of a class clown, and I'd always loved sports. And I'm like, yeah, I should at least go to this meeting. So I went to this meeting, and next thing you know, I try out. And sure enough, I get the job. And for the next 4 years, I ran around in a tiger suit doing college football, college basketball, other sporting events, and other, community events. And I had a lot of fun doing it. And they actually have college mascot competitions. So if you ever watch ESPN, sometimes you'll see like the college cheerleading championships. Well,
Yeah.
Right.
they do the same thing for college mascots. And so what you would do is you would put a highlight video together of stuff you had done throughout that year and then mail it in to this committee. And then they would pick the top four in the nation to compete at the national championships. Well, my dad followed me around with a camcorder, just recording all kinds of stuff. And honestly, I don't know that I was a great mascot, but I told you I was a broadcast journalism major.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I could take all that footage, I could edit down the good stuff that made me look like I was somebody fantastic, put it to music, send this videotape in. And for 3 years in a row, I made it into the final four. So
Wow.
in 1988, I took second in the nation. I lost to the Buzz, the Yellow Jacket out of Georgia Tech. So Tiger loses to a B. In 1989, I finished first in the nation that year. I beat Zippy the Kangaroo out of Akron University in Ohio. And then in 1990, I took second again. I lost to the Buffalo out of Marshall University in West Virginia. So
So
I
what
get to the
type of
end
stuff
my
did you put
college
on there?
career, and I've got this mascot resume. I got the human resume. And apparently the mascot resume looked a little bit better than my human resume did. So, I always laugh too. All the smart kids graduate magna cum laude. I graduated thank the laude. And so, so I ended
Well,
up turning, I graduated from college, which turned into my first professional job with the St. Louis Cardinals. I grew up in St. Charles,
yeah.
Yep.
and St. Louis Cardinals were my hometown team. That's the team I grew up cheering for. And so when I got the job with the Cardinals and had the opportunity to dress up as a character called Fredbird, that was like a dream come true. I was loving that. So.
That's awesome. How long did you dress up like Fredbird?
Well, I was just there for a short time in St. Louis because, like a month or two after I got started in St. Louis, I got a call out of the blue from the Kansas City Chiefs saying they were going to start up a program, this KC Wolf character, and wanted to know if I'd be interested. And honestly, I was like, I was near home. I was kind of in my comfort zone, to be honest with you. But I'm like, okay, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that God orchestrates everything in our lives. And I'm like, I should at least go interview just to kind of figure out what this Casey Wolf thing is all about. And so I went and interviewed with the Chiefs, and I was just extremely impressed with the organization. And I knew I could use it as a platform to hopefully make an impact, because that's, at the end of the day, that was my goal, is to use whatever platform that the Lord gave me to make an impact in the lives of others.
Yeah.
And this mascot thing, especially in the lives of young people, I'm like, what a great opportunity. And so I told
Yeah.
the Chiefs I wanted to be able to go out and speak at like schools and churches and different groups. And they were very supportive of that. And so and I picked up and I moved all the way across the state from St. Louis over to Kansas City. And I have no regrets. Plus, the other thing that got me there, in baseball, they play 81 home games in the summertime. In professional football, they play 10 in the fall and the winter. And I might not be the brightest guy around, but I knew that was a good switch to make to the NFL.
That makes sense to me.
Back in 1990, and I've been there just transitioned from being the full-time KC Wolf to a backup KC Wolf just in July 1st.
Mm. So
Dan, go ahead, Austin.
So when you were in college, kind of where were you at spiritually at that time?
When I was back up to my senior year of high school, I went to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp in St. Louis. And it was at that camp. I'd grown up in a church. I grew up going to church almost every Sunday. But honestly, all I did was go through the motions. It was a Sunday thing. It was a once a week thing. Didn't mean much to me. Didn't really affect how I chose to live my life that much back then. But I went to this FCA camp, Weekend of Champions conference, my senior year. And it was at that camp is when I committed my life to Christ. I knew there was more to life than just going through the motions, more to this faith than just showing up at church once a week. And so that was the weekend that changed my life. I gave my life to Christ. A few months later, I went away to the University of Missouri, Columbia, not exactly a hotbed of theology there. But I got involved real quick with a group called the Navigators. Great ministry. Taught me how to memorize scripture. Taught me how to have a daily devotional. Taught me how to spend time with the Lord and how to share what the Lord had done in my life with others. And that ministry right there just really kind of gave me a kickstart in my Christian life that I'm just so thankful when I think back to my early years in college, because those are pivotal years right there. And the Lord just brought people into my life that helped me to grow and to mature and just strengthen my faith through that time.
So, Dan, you get your start with the Kansas City Chiefs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're the NFL's longest tenured mascot that there is in the NFL. So that means being with
the old guy, yes. So.
That means being with the Chiefs, you probably went to a couple Super Bowls. Now, off the air a second ago, you showed my grandkids this Super Bowl ring for the KC Wolf. Do you want to?
Happen to have a couple of
wow.
So.
Your fingers better grow a little bit, I think,
This is KC Wolf's Super Bowl ring. That's the size of it. So this one fits his finger right there. That guy right there. It fits his finger. So,
yeah. Did you get one for your size too?
I do. So I've got when I got my first Super Bowl ring, we took a bunch of pictures of it, sent it to a 3D printer, and then this is what came back. So if you wonder what the Super Bowl 54 ring looks like, it looks identical to this. The only difference is on the side of this one, it says KC Wolf, and on my real one, it says my last name, Meers. So
that's awesome.
I'll tell you a quick funny story. So when I brought my first Super Bowl ring home from the stadium, all three of my kids were there that day. And my kids were like, Dad, that thing is really cool. Because if you've seen one of the real ones, I mean, they're big, they're sparkly, and they are cool. Okay. And my kids are like, Dad, you got to keep doing that job until you get three of those, or we're all going to fight over that when you die someday. At the time, I told him, I'm like, if you fight over it, I'll give it to your mom's next husband. That'll teach all three of them.
Oh, that's good.
But, yeah,
and then
Kansas City.
We also commented on this, so I'm going to do it right now. But tell us a little bit what's behind you there, Dan. It looks like you got a bunch of mascots.
There are a lot of mascots. If my house caught on fire, I have collected a lot of stuff over the years through my just time in professional sports and stuff. But if my house caught on fire and I had to come back and get something, this might be what I came back for. This is my professional mascot bobblehead collection. So I've got every professional mascot from the National Basketball Association, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, and from the NFL. And my
Wow.
favorite part of this collection, not only do I know what their costume looks like, I can picture the guy that's underneath that
Really?
costume
Wow.
when I look at those bobbleheads. Because I just
Have you met every guy
I have
or
met,
gal?
well, you know what? I used to know some of them retired and they've got a new person that have moved into that position. But no, I probably, at one point in my life, I bet I knew 85, 90% of them.
Wow.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
just all the mascots were all about 2 peas short of a casserole, if you know what I mean. Not the sharpest crayon. I will tell you
Now,
this, they're fun. They're fun to hang
uh,
out with.
now, I also read in a little bit of my research that you only missed 3 games since 1990. Tell us a little bit about what is it like to stay in shape to be a mascot? What are some of the most challenging things, Dan?
You know what? So for me, everything I did was for endurance. Okay. So I don't have to be like a lineman where I got to go, you know, bench press 400 pounds. I just got to be able to put 30 pounds of fur on my body and dance around out in the hot sun for 3.5 hours if it goes to overtime. And so everything I would do was for endurance. And so I used to jog. And then as I got older, my body started to talk to me and said, you need to take up stationary biking and biking. So I do a whole lot of stationary biking uh, during the winter months. And then I've literally put thousands of miles on a Schwinn Airdyne. I'm on my fourth one in my career. I went through 4 of them. I could get about 8 years out of them, 8 to 9 years, and then one of the pedals would typically fall off, and I'd be like, okay, it's time to get a new bike. And so, but that seemed to be the one I liked the best, and so sits right over in the corner in my basement, and I'd hop on that thing and. If the Chiefs had an away game, I would sit and watch the Chiefs play on TV, and I would sit there and just pedal like a gerbil in my basement. So,
Wow.
yeah. So
Well, Dan,
back in
we've
back in 1996, I biked across the United States, but I did it on a stationary bike, so the view wasn't that good. Like 3,500 miles that year.
Wow.
That's the most I've ever done. Usually it was typically around anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 was about average.
wow,
So
that's awesome. So we're going to ask you about a couple of your core philosophies and the life lessons that you bring with them. We got about 6 that I've been able to do some research, and I'm going to just, Austin and I are going to go back and forth and just share a few words, and you tell us what comes to your mind when you hear these things and why they're so important to you. The one I thought was great was occupation versus preoccupation. Tell us about that. Even you're called the director of shenanigans, I think.
Director of Shenanigans, that's my title. It was on my nameplate up at Arrowhead. But yeah, I once heard that if you ask a man his occupation, all you're going to do is you're going to find out how he pays his bills. But if you ask a man his preoccupation, then you'll discover the passion of his life. Well,
Wow.
my occupation is mascot. I pay my bills running around in a costume. It's not rocket science, trust me. But my preoccupation, what I am truly passionate about in life, for me, it's simply 3 things. Number 1 is my faith. Number 2 is my family. And number 3 is just using my life to make a positive impact in this world that I live in. I get a lot of opportunities to travel around the country. I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of speaking on leadership. And I'll tell you, my favorite quote on leadership comes from a guy named John Maxwell. You've probably heard that name.
Yes.
But John Maxwell once said that leadership, it's not about titles, positions, or flow charts. Leadership is about one life influencing another. And honestly, that's what I'm passionate about, is encouraging others, whether it's teachers, coaches, businessmen, parents, to make a positive impact in the lives of others.
Mm.
I, I laugh. I tell this to my kids all the time. You don't have to be on social media to be an influencer, okay? You don't have to have 1 million followers like Taylor Swift or have your own personal brand. You have the opportunity to be an influencer every time you step into a room. Every time you have an interaction with another individual, you have an opportunity to be an influencer. And that's what I want to use the days that I'm given here on this earth, is to, like I said, make a positive impact in the world. That's my preoccupation, my faith, my family, and just being a difference maker here in this world.
That's so well communicated. Um, Second one would be a defining moment happened on November 23rd, 2013, where you fell from 75 feet in the air. Can you explain kind of the accident and then kind of your journey in the midst of that?
Yeah, so mascots do stunts, and sometimes you do stunts that you're like, maybe we shouldn't have done that stunt. That would fall under this category. So earlier that season, we had done a skit or a stunt where Casey Wolf zip-lined into the stadium. They hook up a zip line at the top of this Arrowhead Stadium from the lights, the very top, all the way across the football field to the lights on the other side of the stadium.
Wow.
Was that your idea?
Up. Huh?
Was that your idea, or did they have to talk you into doing that?
Was. I've never said all my ideas were good. Trust me. So we had me harnessed up. I'd jump out of the lights and then I'd just zip line out over the field, and the crowd absolutely loved it. They thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And so a few months later, we're like, well, let's do it again. And I'm like, let's not do the same thing because they've already seen that. So we were going to do a bungee jump and zip line. So I was going to jump out of the lights. I'm supposed to fall about 20 feet. The bungee cord is supposed to catch me, bounce me back into the air, and then I'm going to zip line out over the field. So it's supposed to be the greatest mascot entrance ever. Well, unfortunately, that day things did not go as planned, because when I jumped out of the lights, because of the slack that was still in the zip line, because that's what the bungee cord was attached to, was to the zip line. Because of the slack that was in there, instead of falling 20 feet, I fell approximately 70 to 75 feet, and I hit the seats in the upper level of Arrowhead Stadium. I hit the seats so hard, I knocked 2 seats out of the concrete. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. You ever go to Arrowhead, swing by section 324, row 32, seats 22 and 23. Those look a little bit newer. Okay. But after I hit, I still remember, I guess my body went into shock. I was just shaking. My whole body was shaking. I was struggling to breathe and to talk, and I was just scared and wanted to get down. Well, unfortunately, if your bungee cord is attached to the zip line, there's no way to get down halfway through the ride. Okay, it's like a roller coaster. So if you go to a roller coaster, get on a roller coaster, you're not going to get off the roller coaster until it comes to a stop. Well, the same was true for me that day. I jumped out of the lights, I fall, I hit the seats. At that point, the bungee cord yanked me back into the air, and then I zip lined out over the field. And so I ended up, once I got to the ground, they called an ambulance. They rushed me to the hospital. Get to the hospital, I found out that I'd broken 7 ribs, collapsed my left lung. I shattered my tailbone. I cracked my sacrum, bone your tailbone attaches to. Got a big gash on the back of my left leg that required a lot of stitches. And then I got several units of blood because I'd lost a lot of blood after I'd hit the seats. But then my worst injury, I broke the T12 vertebrae in my back. And the next day I had surgery, and I've got these new titanium rods that stabilize that part of my spine. So,
wow.
But
now, Dan, there's a statement you make as you, I guess, go out and speak. There's no such thing as accidents. You want to tell us what you mean?
Yeah, I believe that. I got this written in the back of my Bible. It says, "There's no such thing as accidents. They're all just incidents in God's perfect plan for my life." And I believe that. I've been through a lot of stuff in life. I thought that was hard. That was my second hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, what I do believe with all my heart is there is a God in heaven that loves me deeply.
Mm.
And um, these things that happen aren't a coincidence. Now, does that mean he doesn't love me because he allowed something painful to happen in my life?
Mm.
That's not what that means at all. I know he loves me. I read it again this morning when I got up. I know he loves me. I also know this. I know he loves me way too much to allow needless pain in my life. And even though I didn't like the pain, I didn't like it at all. I spent 9 days in a hospital and 6 months off work doing therapy and rehab. But even though I didn't like the pain, I knew God must have a purpose behind the pain, or He would
Mm.
have never allowed it into my life. And
Mm.
and it's been interesting. I look back, that happened 11 and a half years ago now. And I look back on that. And during that 6 month period that I was off work, I'm like, okay, I can sit around and I can feel sorry for myself, or I can do something productive. And so I decided I was going to write a book. So I did. I wrote this book called Wolves Can't Fly, since I proved that wolves can't fly. But it was all about my career as a tiger, a bird, a wolf, places I've been all over the world, people I've met. I mean, crazy mascot stories. I've walked women down the aisle on their wedding day. I've been the best man in probably 10 or 11 weddings. I've been a flower girl. I mean, I've done it all in a wolf outfit. But so I wrote this book, and the absolute best thing about writing a book, people think you're smarter than you really are. Okay. So you become not only a speaker, but you're an author and a speaker. And so I started to get these opportunities to go out and speak at conferences, to speak to adults. Well, I've been speaking to kids for years, and I'm like, what do you talk to adults about? And when it dawned on me that adults are nothing but big kids. That's all they are. They're big kids. And you talk to them the same way. You tell them stories, you make them laugh, you show them pictures, and then have a good message, and
Mm.
then know when to shut up. And if you do those things, so I started to do these conferences, and then I would just keep getting invited back to do more and more conferences just around the country. And so it's kind of turned into my ministry, or what I do to make an impact, not only through I run around in a costume and don't speak, and then I'm a motivational speaker and I do speak. So but I wrote that book, and all the money we make off book sales, we give it away. We give it away to charity ministries. We do work with food banks, homeless shelters, orphanages all over the world. And at this point, I think we've given away somewhere like $250,000, $300,000
Wow.
from just these book sales. And I don't say that to brag. I say that I look back now and I think, well, maybe God used that tough time in my life, not only to prepare me for other tough times that were coming, but to hopefully make an impact. I mean, we've helped support orphanages in India, Africa, Honduras, Haiti, Dominican Republic, just all over the United States. And so that's the most rewarding part of this job. Super Bowl rings are cool. Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, my kids are going to, well, they won't have to fight anymore. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's just stuff. And my
Yeah.
mom told me a long time ago, most important things in life aren't things. The most important things in life are relationships.
Mm.
And I look how God took that time in my life and built relationships, and
Mm.
how it grew my relationship with him
Mm.
and with so many other people. And like I said, that's the most rewarding part of my life. And I think you probably know this, but part of the reason I'm so emotional, I recently lost my wife
Mm.
to cancer. Um,
Sorry to hear that.
and once again, I thought the bungee accident was the hardest time in my life. That does not even compare. Doesn't even compare to what we've been through the past 2.5 years with my wife. Shortly after Super Bowl, we've been to the last three Super Bowls. You would think that that would be some of the best times of my life. And honestly, it was not. Shortly after Super Bowl 57, my wife was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she had surgery, and we spent a little over a year doing treatments and chemotherapy. And she got through that year, and they told us she was cancer free, and we were all ready to celebrate. I mean, we had a party planned for her, we had a vacation planned, and unfortunately, we ended up having to cancel those because my wife started to feel bad again. And so we went back to the hospital. Her blood counts were just going crazy. And we learned that she had acute leukemia. And so once again, we had to go back onto the treatments to get the cancer into remission. And on December 31st, just this past year, she had a bone marrow transplant. And if you know anything about leukemia, the first 100 days after that transplant are the most critical. And we got to day 60, and we found out that her cancer had returned. And so we made a trip down to MD Anderson Cancer Hospital in Houston, and basically got more discouraging news there. And they sent her home on hospice. And on May the 31st of this year, my wife left me for the only man in her life that she loved more than me, and that's Jesus. She went home to be in heaven with him. And once again, I ask a lot of why questions. You know, it's easy during the tough times to ask a lot of why questions. Why, God? Why is this happening? Why my wife? I mean, that woman loved God and loved people. That's what you're supposed to do. Love God and love people. And she was all about that. And, I'd struggled with that for a long time, and come to realize that God doesn't always owe me an explanation for all my why questions. I don't need answers to all my why questions. What I needed more than anything, what my wife needed more than anything, was just his presence each and every day.
Wow.
And the good book says that my grace is sufficient. And I've learned that to be true. I wouldn't wish leukemia on my worst enemy, but I'll tell you what, it has deepened my relationship with Christ. It has deepened my relationship with my family, with friends in my life. And I don't always understand God's ways. I don't even begin to try to understand God's ways. But I do know this. I know he is the same yesterday, today, forever. Always has been good, always will be. Always has been faithful, always will be. And you know what? Greatest exchange in my life. I didn't know this was going to be a 2 Kleenex day. I thought but I will tell you this. The thing that's changed my life more than anything else happened back that FCA camp in high school. I call it the Great Exchange. It's what I gave Jesus, what he gave me in return, what he gave me in exchange. You know what I gave him? I gave him my sin. I gave him my shame. I gave him my guilt. I gave him my bondage to sin. You know what he gave me in return for that? In exchange for that, he gave me forgiveness. He gave me mercy. He gave me grace. He gave me freedom. He gave me love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. He gave me abundant life here and now. And you know what? As a bonus, he's got a place waiting for me in heaven someday where I'm going to get to see my wife and my dad again. So yeah, I love him a lot, if you're wondering. So,
Dan, first of all, thank you for your transparency and letting us into such a personal moment with your wife. It means a lot. And, I'm just so honored that you were willing to do that. And as you know, we were praying with you and along with you during that time. And wow. Well, let me ask you
it's been a journey. And But I also know this: God uses our stories, the good, the
Yes.
bad, and the
Yes.
ugly. The
Yeah.
good, the bad, and the ugly. He uses it all. So
Yes.
he can use this crazy Super Bowl story, but you know what? I got a feeling he's going to use my wife's cancer journey a whole lot more.
Mm.
And I know he's taught me a lot more during the hardest seasons of life. But
Mm.
yeah, I miss her. I keep thinking it's going to get a little bit easier. So far, it has not. I heard you don't get over it; you just get through it. And I'm still plugging through it. But uh, as the old hymn says, there's a lot of things about tomorrow I do not understand, but know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand.
Mm.
So, God's going to
And
get me through this one too. And before you know it, I'm going to be in heaven with her.
and Dan, what's your wife's name for our audience?
Her name was Cam, short for
Okay,
Cameron. So,
great.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, another statement that you share, Dan, is life is a coin, invest it wisely. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's one of the things my parents taught me as a kid growing up, that your life's a lot like your finances, okay? You can do one of two things with money. You can spend it or you can invest it. Money you spend, you never see that again. Money you invest, that's wise. That's eventually going to multiply, return to you. When you think about it, we are going to do the exact same thing with our lives. You will either spend it or you're going to invest it. A life that's just spent selfishly, all right, there's wasted. A life that's invested in helping others, encouraging others, building into others. Just like I'm sure your audience is probably filled with a bunch of coaches and teachers and businessmen. But you know what? What an opportunity to invest in the lives of young people and
Yes.
others around you, because that's the rewarding part of life, is when God takes you and uses you. Another quote in the back of my Bible that says, God didn't put us on earth to make a living. He put us here to make an impact.
Mm.
And I believe that we're called to be difference makers. One thing I've learned in this 35-year journey in professional sports, and I share this a lot of times when I go speak at conferences too, that number one, life's a contact sport. Just like football is a contact sport, life's a contact sport. It's hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But also, number two, life's a team sport, that we need each other.
Mm.
It's the banana that gets separated from the bunch. That's the first one that gets eaten, right? And we need each other. And I've learned that over this cancer journey, just how much I need people to come alongside me and support me. But then the third thing I always talk to people about is just that life was never meant to be a spectator sport.
Mm.
That we're called to get in the game. We're
Yeah.
called to be involved. And my pastor asked me to speak at our church a few years ago, and he wanted me to talk about just getting involved with our community and making an impact. And so, as I was preparing for that message, I came across the story about the Good Samaritan, found in Luke chapter 10, I think it is, where you're probably familiar with the story. He's
Yes.
traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On his way, he gets beat up and gets robbed, and he's laying alongside the road half dead. Three people come by, a priest, a Levite, and a Samaritan. And only one of those three made an impact in the man's life. And
Yeah.
and you realize that, and it was the Good Samaritan. And you realize the reason the Good Samaritan was the one that made the impact, he was the only one that was willing to get involved. He was the only one that was willing to climb down off his donkey at the time and get involved in the man's life. And I titled my message, Get Off Your Donkey. And at the time, I told my pastor, I'm like, I think I'm going to teach it out of the King James Version. I'm just going to call this Get Off the Pass. And he's like, I don't think we can print that in the bulletin. So I ended up preached out of NIV. We just called it Get Off Your Donkey. But all that to say, we just need to get off our donkeys and get involved in the game and make an impact while we take our time, our treasures, and our talents and use them to make an impact in the lives of others.
Wow.
Another comment was scars or tattoos with a cool story.
Oh yeah. So scars are tattoos with a cool story. I'm not going to show you my scars from my bungee jump, because I'm pretty sure that's probably there's a law against that. So I won't show you my scars, but yeah, I tell people that I've got that scar back there, and it comes with a story. And like many of the scars in my life, things that have happened to me, whether it's an external scar that you can see, like I've got, or people, I'm sure a lot of people walking around with internal scars too.
Yeah.
But we've all got stories. And the other
Yes.
thing I've learned, we all got issues too.
Yes.
I've got issues, you've got issues. If you're listening and you don't think you got issues, I hate to break this to you. You really got issues at this point. My wife was a counselor. She used to say that all the time. It is the people in this life that don't think they got issues. Look out. Those are the ones that got the issues. And, when you think about it, we've all got baggage in life.
Yeah.
And if we would just help each other carry each other's baggage at times, this world would be a better place for all of us to live.
Well said. How about rise and shine, not rise and whine?
Yeah. So as a result of my bungee jump that didn't go so well, I still live with pain each day, and it's no fun. You don't get a vacation from it. It'll wear you out physically, emotionally. A lot of days are discouraging. Every now and then you get days that are flat out depressing. And so there are many days I wake up in the mornings and I realize that, you can choose to rise and shine, or you can choose to rise and whine. And what I've learned, whiners don't make a positive impact in this world. Whiners don't have a positive influence in the lives of others. And I was reminded of that. I'll go back to this cancer journey that I just have been through. There were many days, I'll be honest, that I felt absolutely helpless to do anything about my wife's situation. Okay. I said helpless. I did not say hopeless. Okay. Because if you've got faith, you've got hope. Those two things, those always go together. Okay. That's peanut butter and jelly. That's macaroni and cheese. Faith and hope always go together. Okay. I said helpless. I couldn't fix this problem. I could love my wife. I could pray for her. I could support her. I could do my best to try to encourage her each day, but I couldn't fix her problem. And so there were many days on that 2.5-year cancer journey where I would wake up with this really heavy feeling. And on those days, when I'd walk past my dresser, I always pictured each morning, I had 2 bags that sat on that dresser. Okay. I had my bag of burdens. I had my bag of blessings. Every day I got to choose which of those bags I was going to pick up. And I'll be honest, there were many days that bag of burdens looked huge. And it was huge. But when I was intentional in the mornings, when I would pause and I would look, I started to realize, you know what, that bag of blessings has always been a lot bigger than that bag of burdens ever was. And you know what else? That bag of blessings, even though it was a lot bigger, it was also a lot lighter. Gave me a chance to go burn energy each day. I did. It's funny when you know that when you know you're in your sweet spot, you know that this is what God made you to do. It sounds crazy, but I find great delight in putting on a costume and just dancing around and messing with people. That's for my bungee jump, because I'm pretty sure that's probably there's a law against that. So I won't show you my scars, but yeah, I tell people that I've got that scar back there, and it comes with a story. And like many of the scars in my life, things that have happened to me, whether it's an external scar that you can see, like I've got, or people, I'm sure a lot of people walking around with internal scars too. But we've all got stories. And the other thing I've learned, we all got issues too.
Yes.
I've got issues. You've got issues. If you're listening and you don't think you got issues, I hate to break this to you. You really got issues at this point. My wife was a counselor. She used to say that all the time. It is the people in this life that don't think they got issues. Look out. Those are the ones that got the issues. And, when you think about it, we've all got baggage in life.
Yeah.
And if we would just help each other carry each other's baggage at times, this world would be a better place for all of us to live.
Well said. How about rise and shine, not rise and whine?
Yeah. So as a result of my bungee jump that didn't go so well, I still live with pain each day, and it's no fun. You don't get a vacation from it. It'll wear you out physically, emotionally. A lot of days are discouraging. Every now and then you get days that are flat out depressing. And so there are many days I wake up in the mornings and I realize that, you can choose to rise and shine, or you can choose to rise and whine. And
Hmm.
what I've learned, whiners don't make a positive impact in this world. Whiners um, don't have a positive influence in the lives of others. And I was reminded of that. I'll go back to this cancer journey that I just um, have been through. Uh, there were many days. I'll be honest that I felt absolutely helpless to do anything about my wife's situation. Okay. I said helpless. I did not say hopeless. Okay. Because if you've got faith, you've got hope. Those two things, those always go together. Okay. That's peanut butter and jelly. That's macaroni and cheese. Faith and hope always go together. Okay.
Wow.
I said helpless. I couldn't fix this problem. I could love my wife. I could pray for her. I could support her. I could do my best to try to encourage her each day, but I couldn't fix her problem. And so there were many days on that 2.5 year cancer journey where I would wake up with this really heavy feeling. And on those days, when I'd walk past my dresser, I always pictured each morning, I had two bags that sat on that dresser. Okay. I had my bag of burdens, I had my bag of blessings. Every day I got to choose which of those bags I was going to pick up. And I'll be honest, there were many days that bag of burdens looked huge. And it was huge. But when I was intentional in the mornings, when I would pause and I would look, I started to realize, you know what, that bag of blessings has always been a lot bigger than that bag of burdens ever was. And you know what else? That bag of blessings, even though it was a lot bigger, it was also a lot lighter to carry through life each and every day. So,
Mm.
but yeah,
Wow.
learn to rise and shine, don't rise and whine. Nobody likes a whiner.
You've already hit the next one we had, but how about how did being a mascot affect your true personality?
How did it, gave me a chance to go burn energy each day. I did. It's funny when you know that when you know you're in your sweet spot, you know that this is what God made you to do. It sounds crazy, but I find great delight in putting on a costume and just dancing around and
Hmm.
messing with people. That's what I was wired to do. And so, but I also tell people this: Casey Wolf was never who I was. Casey Wolf is what I did. That wasn't
Yeah.
my identity. Uh, my identity has never been in achievements, accomplishments, or any uh, job that I've ever had. My true identity is found in my relationship with Jesus Christ and what He says about me, and the things that never put your identity in something that can be taken from you, like a
Hmm.
job or a career or whatever it might be. So my relationship with Christ is where my true identity is found. I know that I'm a child of God, and you know and I, that's why I don't worry too much about what other people say about me, because I know what God says about me, and I just go out and try to be the best version of me I can be. And some days I'll be honest, some days I'm a hot mess. Even on my best days, I'm a lukewarm mess. But every day I'm a mess, trust me. But no, I still got a God that loves me, even though I am a mess.
Dan, my wife and Austin's mom has said it many times about our life. She says we're a beautiful mess.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I agree. Well, let's jump to the next chapter, which I guess is the chapter you're in right now. And you're talking about legacy and enduring purpose. And, you've talked about being a motivational speaker. Talk a little bit about an organization that I know is very dear to your heart, and one that I intersected. Actually, was one of three guys that was at the very beginning of this. Rod Hanley, Steve Pallor, and I used to meet once a week, and out of that came Character That Counts. Tell us a little bit about your involvement there and what it means to you.
Yeah, so Rod Hanley, the founder of Character That Counts, he and I have been accountability partners for close to 35 years. Okay.
Wow.
I think once you left Kansas City, I kind of moved into your place maybe, because I was with Pallure for a short time, and but yeah, Rod and I have been meeting once a week for 35 years, and we've got about four other guys that meet with us, and it's tomorrow morning. So, but those are the guys that keep me on the straight and narrow. I mean, they ask me the tough questions and make sure that I'm spending time in God's Word and being at the time, the husband, the father, the grandfather that I'm called to be, and asking me tough questions about purity issues, and whether I'm honoring God with my 100% best at my work, so yeah, I'm just so thankful. And then for that ministry, because I've just have so many opportunities to go out and do speaking. And it's not only conferences. I do a lot of men's events, men's conferences, speak at a lot of churches and banquets and fundraisers, and just a little. I'll talk to anybody that'll listen to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I just love the ministry, and I love to see how. I mean, Rod Hanley. Anybody that knows Rod Hanley, the man is a servant, and I couldn't do half the ministry stuff I do without him, because he is just a behind the scenes guy. Even though he does a lot of speaking himself, he is a behind the scenes guy. I told you about the books that we sell. So
Yes.
I spoke 3 times last week. I'm speaking 3 times again this week. So after every time I speak, we set up a book table. I sell books, and then I've got this envelope full of cash. So I'm putting it in Ziploc bags, and Rod Hanley is the one that I give the cash to, because he is a former accountant, not only in ministry, but so this morning at church, I'm giving him 2 Ziploc bags filled with like $1,000. And I'm sure the other church members are thinking we're running some kind of a meth lab out of my basement. About twice a week, I show up, see Rod, and I'm handing him a Ziploc bag full of cash. But no, it's all on the up and up. We're just he deposits that money, and then we're just sending money to orphanages and other ministries that are making an impact for Christ in this world. So,
I saw something for the first time, and you talked to us a little bit about edutain, if I'm pronouncing it correct. I think Edutain. What does that mean?
you know what? That's a combination of education and entertainment. So if you're going to talk to kids, you better have a little bit of both there. You want to educate them, but you don't want it to be too boring, because I've sat through a few of those back when I was a kid that had way too much energy to sit and listen to a boring speaker. So I'm like, if we're going to get a kids and hold their attention and actually make an impact, we need to entertain them too. And that's what's been just great about this Casey Wolf position, was if you walk into a room full of kids in a mascot outfit, you don't have to worry about getting their attention, because you've got their attention. You got to worry about how to get it down a little bit, because they get fired up in a hurry. But the best part of, I think what made me the speaker I am today, the first 20 years of my speaking career was to grades K through 6. And if you can hold an elementary kid's attention for 45 minutes, adults are nothing. That's easy.
I'm a elementary PE teacher, so I know what you're talking about.
So you know.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about your book, Wolves Can't Fly and Mascots on a Mission. Tell us about your passions for global missions and ministry.
Yeah, it was funny. I wrote that first book when I was hurt, and I got to the end of it, and I'm like, there ain't no way I am ever going to write another book. It is way too hard. I got way too much energy. Sitting in front of a computer drives me crazy. And so I'm like, there ain't no way. And then about 5 years later, I could tell God was like, hey, you need to write another book. And I'm like, no, God, you got to talk to me in an audible voice if you want me to. Well, he never talked to me in an audible voice, but I'm like, okay. Because I realized I'm like, the only reason I wouldn't write another book, there was only one reason, and that's because I was lazy. And I didn't think that was a good enough excuse not to write another book. So after we had given a bunch of money to these orphanages around the world, I would try to go to these orphanages and make an appearance as Casey Wolf, and then also take the costume off and just kind of share with kids, about my relationship with Christ and how it's changed me, and hopefully encourage them. And so, but so I just had just crazy stories of traveling overseas in a mascot outfit, to Haiti and Honduras and Africa. And I've got pictures of me riding a camel in India in a wolf outfit.
How was that going through the airports and getting the suit?
Oh yeah,
No.
so I'm carrying this big bag with me. Then I had so much fun on the camel. I rode the elephant too while I was over there, and so I mean, just crazy stories like that. And so I'm like, okay. So I wrote this second book, and once again, we take all that money, we give all that money away to charity as well. But it's been kind of cool because I spent the first 29 years of my career with the Chiefs, and I never went to a Super Bowl. And now I've been to 5 out of the last 6. And so every time the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, I write another chapter and add it onto the end of that book. And so that book's starting to get kind of thick now. I've added 6 new chapters, but yeah, I've just got a passion for orphans and widows. That's what the good book tells us, to look out for orphans and widows. And so that's what we're about. We're just trying to do what I can to do what God tells me to do. So,
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I just wake
That's
up each
awesome.
day and I'm like, Lord, you lead the way. I'm just along for the ride. And I'll tell you, it's been a good time. So,
Well, Dan, you've talked about your beloved wife to us already. Tell us about your boys and what the journey's been like with them right now.
well, I've got 3 children, girl bookends and a boy in the middle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so my oldest daughter lives in St. Charles with her husband. That's where I grew up, like I said. Funny thing, her father-in-law used to be my prayer partner in college when I first
Okay.
went to
Wow.
Mizzou. He and I prayed. We used to get together once a week and pray together. And I told him at their wedding reception, I'm like, if I knew that your son was going to marry my daughter one day, I would have prayed a lot harder for you, and I might even have fasted. But no, he's just a great young man, and they just had their first baby girl about 4 months ago. So that's my youngest granddaughter. And my son, he just graduated from medical school, which I find that funny. His dad is a mascot. He's a doctor. I don't understand that much about genetics, but I do know those genes came from his mom's side of the family, not my side. And but him and his wife live in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where he's doing his residency. And they've got my oldest granddaughter, who is now about 10 months old, live down there. And then my youngest daughter she's single, but she lives down in Florida right now. So
Okay.
kind of got them
Great.
scattered. But yeah, they're seem to be doing good. They good kids. They've got issues just like their dad's got issues, just like everybody's got issues.
Yes.
But no, they're pretty good kids. I don't think they've spent any time in jail that I know of. That's a pretty low bar to set, but they're pretty good kids. So.
Well, we're going to jump to legacy and get ready to close our time together, which has been so much of a blessing. Dan, as you look back over your remarkable career, what is one behind the fur story or moment that describes your pure joy that you discovered in your work? And how does that joy fuel your mission and purpose today?
Okay, so this is going to be a long story, and you're going to think I'm off on a tangent, but it's got a point at the end. Okay, so let me just say that up front.
Share it.
This may be one of my favorite mascot stories. If you ever watch a Chiefs football game, a lot of times you will see Casey Wolf under the goalpost after a field goal and an extra point. Well, the reason I do that is my kids thought it was cool to see their dad on TV during the Chiefs game. So if they were not at the game, a lot of times, especially as they get older, they'd call me a couple days before the game and they'd be like, Dad, this is what I want you to do under the goalpost this week. So it was our secret handshake. They're looking for that move just to let them know, hey, Dad loves you, right? And so So a few years ago, if you're a Chiefs fan, you'll remember this game. Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills. It's the
Yeah.
13-second game. We're losing
Okay.
with
Yep.
13 seconds left. The Chiefs, they kick off to us. We go down, kick a field goal, send it to overtime, and win that game. It's probably the most exciting Chiefs game I
Yes.
ever did in my entire career. But a few days before that game, my youngest daughter, she played college volleyball at Louisiana Tech down in Ruston, Louisiana. So she called me up about 3 days before that game, and she's like, "Dad, this is what I want you to do under the goalpost." And because she knew the game was going to be on national TV since it was an NFL playoff game, she's like, "Dad, I want you to do the gritty." And I'm like, "Okay, Dad's got one big question. What is the gritty?" I had no clue as to what the gritty is. And Ken, you probably don't know what the gritty is either.
I don't either. I'm waiting.
It's some crazy dance that the football players do. That's right. You got it.
My kids know all about the gritty. Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, elementary kids put their fingers together, do some kind of crazy dance. So I did the same thing all old guys do, like you and I can. I pull it up on my phone and I start studying how to do this goofy gritty dance. Well, comes game day, the Chiefs are driving down to kick the first field goal, and Harrison Butker's getting ready to kick the goal or the field goal. Everybody in the stadium's nervous, thinking, "Ooh, is he going to make this field goal?" I'm not nervous about that. You know what I'm nervous about? Can I remember how to do this goofy gritty dance? I've been studying for 3 days now on my phone. So sure enough, Harrison Butker splits the uprights just like he always does. I get out there in front of the goalpost and I'm giving it my best gritty dance in my costume. And there's a young guy on our grounds crew. He walks over to me afterwards and he's like, "Wolf, I didn't know you could gritty." And I'm like, "Well, yes, I can." Apparently, he knew what I was doing, so I'm all proud of myself. And I go in for my break at halftime, and my youngest daughter had texted me, and she's like, "Dad, you killed it." I'm like, "Yeah, I killed the gritty on national TV." So we win that game. Fast forward to the next week, we're going to play the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC Championship game. We won't talk about how that game ended up going, but so my oldest daughter, who lives down near St. Louis, she calls me on the phone and she's like, "Dad, I don't care what dance you do this week. I just want you to wear a different outfit after every field goal and extra point." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." I'm like, "That's a lot of work changing clothes in a mascot costume." But I'm like, "Okay, Dad loves you. I'm going to do this for you." So I come out. I think I was dressed up like Superman, and then I come back out in some big Hawaiian shirt and glasses. And I think it came back like Captain America or something. I've got all kinds of outfits. And I must have been doing a good job because I went back in at halftime for my break. And my assistant sitting in the locker room with me, he's busting out laughing. He's on social media. And some guy had posted that Casey Wolf's got more costume changes than a Lady Gaga concert. I'm like, "Okay, so I'm killing again now." So fast forward, we're going to the second half, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to start off the second half in my Elvis Presley outfit." I've got an Elvis. It's a white jumpsuit, got the eagle on the back of it, the gold belt, the blue shoes. And I'm like, "I'm going to start off dressed like Elvis." So I go out there. Cincinnati's got the ball, so I don't have to be under the goalpost. So I'm just walking around on the sideline. And I get to the far end. There's an older lady. She's sitting on the very front row, and she is going absolutely nuts. I mean, her arms are waving, and she's yelling and screaming. Apparently, she's a big Elvis fan. She really wanted her picture with Casey Wolf dressed like Elvis. And so I start to walk towards her, and she's still yelling and waving. And all of a sudden, I see her eyes get really big. She puts her hand up to her mouth, and I see her stand up. She starts looking around, and then she bends over and she whispers something to her husband, who's sitting next to her. Her husband then stands up and he starts looking around. And I'm like, "Okay, this is kind of weird at this point," but she's still waving at me. So I walk over towards her and she's like, "Wolf," she says, "I've got a big problem." She says, "I've got false teeth. And when I was yelling, they flew out of my mouth and they're down there on the field." And I'm like, and sure enough, I look down next to my big red tennis shoe. There's a set of teeth laying on the ground. I bend down, I pick up her teeth. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I'm like trying to slip them to her. And she grabs her teeth, she rinses them off in her beer, she sticks them up in her mouth, and we get a picture taken. And I start to walk away, and she's like, "Wolf, I want you to know something. You're my hero." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay." and I'm driving home from the game that night, and I thought to myself, "You know what I did to become a hero that day? I picked up her teeth and I gave them back to her. That is all I did. I picked up that woman's teeth and I gave them back to her." And all that to say, here's what I've learned. I'll ask you this: who's the person that's in your life right now that just needs some help picking up their teeth? It's probably not a
Mm.
set of teeth, okay? But like we talked about, everybody is going through something. And when
Yes.
we just take time to help somebody in a small way, just help pick up their teeth, take them out for coffee, let them just reach out to them, guess what? Makes a world of difference. And I had a whole lot of people who have helped me pick up my teeth the past 2 years,
Mm.
brought us meals, prayed for us, encouraged us, sent us cards and texts and phone calls. And yeah, just makes me realize that if we just go through life and help people pick up their teeth, just be a blessing in the lives of others. I think that's the way God told us to live our lives. We do that,
Wow.
life would be a lot better for all of us. So,
It's
man, I
awesome.
won't have to go to a hospital and get an IV after this podcast. Good. So,
So here's another one. What do you want someone to hear when you say God did not put us on this earth to make a living, but He put us here to make an impact?
yes, I believe that with all my heart. At the end of my career, when people are sitting at my funeral someday, I could care less if they know I was in the Mascot Hall of Fame, or how many years I spent working for the Chiefs, or how many Super Bowl rings I may have got, whether I got inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. I could care less if they bring that up at my funeral or not.
Mm.
I don't On that day, I don't want to be remembered for what I did. How I hope to be remembered that day is for who I was.
Yeah.
And if the only thing that people ever say about Dan Meers is that I love the Lord and I love people,
Mm.
I'm good with that. Okay. You put that on my tombstone, I figure that's life lived well right there. So
Mm.
that's my goal each day. Pretty simple goal. Get up, go out, love other people. Not judge other people. That's easy to do. Go out, love other people. That's not easy to do, because you probably know this. There's some people in the world that are hard to love.
Yeah.
And if you don't
Yes.
know anybody like that, come to Kansas City. I'll introduce you to them. Hey, love them anyway, because one day when the story's complete, that's I don't want to be remembered for what I did, but for who I was. So
Mm. Well, Dan, the final thing we do in our time together is we call it final words, or Austin, I like to call it words of life, because I believe we speak life into each other. We want to give you the chance to share anything that is on your heart with our listeners, final words, and then Austin will follow you, and then I'll close us.
okay. Well, I think of a verse that I think of the things in my life that have kept me from being more of a difference maker in my life. And I think one of those has been fear. Okay. I think especially us guys, we like to
Mm.
hide behind a mask. We like to hide behind a facade sometimes. We don't want anybody to see our faults, our fears, and our failures. Okay. It
Yeah.
seems like
Mm.
we're always trying to hide against that. But, you know, I, when I there's a verse in the Bible that says that God did not give us a spirit of timidity and fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And
Mm.
right before I'd go out, even run around in my costume, I'd try to remind myself of that before I hopped on my four-wheeler and raced out of that tunnel into my day's work. I'd remind myself, hey, God didn't give you a spirit of timidity and fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And I just go out and be like, my number one job today is just go out and love people, whether it's
Mm.
through my actions, through my words, through, whatever it was. And so I just encourage people, don't let fear keep you from making an impact in your world. And, it's, I think Satan uses that a lot of times in our lives to keep us kind of in our comfort zone, keep us safe. And you know what? Go out, make some mistakes, fail a few times. Failure's not fatal. But yeah, so that's what I just try to encourage my kids with that too. I'd rather see my kids aim high and come up short and aim low and hit it every single time. And yeah, I'm not into being mediocre. God didn't wake me up today to be mediocre, and He didn't wake you up today to be mediocre either. So
Right.
that's why I try to encourage people to get in the game. Don't be one of those people that stand on the sideline and just shout instructions. Actually, get in the game and get your hands dirty and start to make an impact, because God uses people like that.
Well, Dan, thank you for your time. There's a lot of thoughts going through my head. I'm trusting the Spirit to let Him just communicate what He desires to communicate. But a couple things that jumped out to me. One is you're a joy to be around. You really are.
Thank you.
Yes.
To laugh. One of the things Dad read a while back, and we've talked about a number of times probably on this podcast, is I think it had to do with was it Jimmy V, Dad, or whatever, talking about like you want to hit all the emotions in a day, and that's a good day. And just, you just being here with you, I mean, there's just such a joy that exudes from you. But then you got an emotional part because life happens, like you said. And it's a real honor to watch, because to me, in a lot of ways, just sitting here, getting to share life with you in this moment, I get to see what the power of the gospel in a man of faith or a woman of faith would look like when they're living this life that we live in. Because the reality is there's ups and downs in this world. There's things we don't understand. We don't have the answers to the whys. But you went back to what you were confident in, what you knew to be true, that He is good, that He's at work, that He loves your wife and He loves you and your kids. And that's an incredible strength and level of faith that a lot of people can read about and talk about. It's a difference to know that and experience that. So it's been an honor to watch that just in this little over an hour, be modeled, and not in a way that was, you're trying to perform. I mean, it's just who you are. And everything that you're talking about, impact, and the next person you're around is, like we always talk about, the next person that's in front of you is the most important person that you're going to be with. I mean, and just the wisdom you shared from your wealth of experience, and it is just a blessing. And I'm thankful for your heart, and I truly believe that you've impacted a great number of people on this earth. I know today, even just you're playing an impact and impacting my life, just sitting and watching you share your story. And another thing is, I think it was a great reminder that, being in the world, but you're not just of the world. You're bringing His kingdom in the midst of something that everyone loves. Everyone loves an NFL atmosphere. Everyone loves the KC Wolf, and to be able to experience His joy in the midst of the world we live in and bring joy to other people is such a gift. And I know for me, I'm grateful for you, and I love the stories of just you doing little tricks for kids. And it's too bad you're retiring now, because I would have been looking to see what you would have been doing on the next game you would have been doing. So, but I appreciate you. Thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you.
Well, like Austin, Dan, there's so many things going through my mind, but I have to first, and I think you would agree, and Austin would too, I just have to thank Papa for allowing you to cross our path again after 35 years. And he amazes me. I shouldn't be amazed, but I'm amazed every time. Like you said so eloquently, relationships are what he's about. Mm-hmm. And that's what lasts. And to be able to just sit here and talk to you with that type of gap of time between us, I feel like we were together for the last 35 years, once a week. And you make it so, as Austin said, it's so easy to be in relationship with you. And I know that will have such an impact on people. But you're a reviver of the heart, is what I thought about. As I sat here, you revived my heart today by just sharing your life. And I am thankful for that. I think of what you said when you opened up. I think I can speak for your dad. He's proud of you, Dan, because you are a sermon in shoes. And I know he's smiling today as you walk through your life, just being Dan Meers, his son. So thank you for that as well. And then Austin said this, in the midst of all this, what people might say is stardom and, you're so well known. I think it was so cool to hear you still found time in the midst of all of that to make your children and family a priority. Very easily, you could have been lost in the moment of being the KC Wolf, but you always found time to make sure your children knew, hey, Dad loves you. And I think that's what Papa says to us as we walk through our journey of life. He says, Dan, Austin, Ken, all I want is for you to let me love you. And that's the gospel message. So Dan, Austin, I thank you for allowing us today to share your story with our listeners on Awakened Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.